Hi from Los Angeles. My name is John Keogh and welcome to the 2020 version of the Future of Food 10 by 10 CEO interview series. And in this episode, I'm delighted to have with me Cher Mereweather, the CEO of Provision Coalition from the Toronto region out in Guelph, I believe. Hello, Cher.
Hi, John. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much. And in this 10 minutes is going to go very, very quickly, Cher. So in the first 30 seconds, what is the elevator pitch for your organization?
You know, we're food and beverage industry sustainability experts, and our purpose is really about making food sustainably. And we believe that food and beverage companies should take care of both people and the planet. And so our vision is really to create the first circular food system in the world here in Canada. And what we do is we transform business companies one company at a time. And when companies work with us, they increase their revenue, reduce their cost, elevate their brand, take care of their people, and just come out on the other side a much better, stronger company.
That's pretty amazing. And we're going to mine into some of those points later. But Cher, on your journey, what have you seen are the key challenges that the food industry is dealing with in Canada or globally?
You know what, right now there are two real challenges that we're seeing. The first, not surprising, is what's happening with COVID. We've seen a real divide in the industry. If food companies were servicing food service, restaurants, bars, then there was a real scramble because essentially overnight their market dropped off. So we're seeing massive pivots trying to just get their product out the door direct to consumer. So that's sort of on one half of the industry. And then the other half, I don't know if that's an equal share, but the other side of the challenge is really around excess demand and keeping their people safe. So obviously with restaurants and food service closed, we're seeing retail demand exponential. And so companies are having to figure out, how do I keep my people safe while also meeting this increased demand? And with the added inefficiencies that COVID introduces into the plant. So extra sanitation, extra shifts, lunchrooms not being able to, having to put in all these extra practices in order to keep the people safe, which actually creates inefficiencies in the production system while trying to increase their demand.
Certainly a lot of challenges there, Sharon. And we'll actually come back to some of those challenges in a few moments. So based on that, you're seeing the challenges now, and what do you see as, within your members, the organizations you work with, what do you see as evolving as the key opportunities that they have today?
You know what, the opportunity that we see is really around food loss and waste in particular. So 40% of all of our food is wasted that we produce here in Canada. And what a tremendous opportunity if you flip that around and you start to ask the question of, why are we wasting it? And at a time when we have increased demand and that need for food, man, we got to make sure we're not wasting it. And so if we flip it into, this is an opportunity to increase yield, increase production, and we focus in on how do we prevent that waste from happening first and foremost so that people can eat it. And then we start to look at our food system and say, you know what, we are very much still a linear model of take, make, dispose. And if there's one thing that COVID has shown us is that we have some logistical challenges, some gaps and holes in our food system. And if we look at it as an opportunity for how do we make our food system more circular, that's where we're going to see real opportunity.
That's great. So I think the making it circular, looking at the challenges and turning those into opportunities is a great philosophy and a great way to go. Now, going back to the challenges, you mentioned two main things on the challenges. The first one is around worker health and safety and a little bit of the increased demand. But if you go back to the direct to consumer, when you have some of your members or the companies you work with, and all of a sudden their channel to market is closed down, and now they have to consider a direct to consumer market. How have you seen that evolve in your area?
You know what, it's been amazing. Those companies that have a strong purpose or a why do they exist beyond profit? Those are the companies that have been able to pivot fastest, because when they were looking at where do we go from here, they allowed their why to guide them in making that decision. And so that's such a critical part of the pivot, right? There's so many ways you can go in different directions, but what feeds into why you exist as a business beyond profit? And that helps you make those decisions around pivot.
I think that's a fantastic example. Do you have a particular company or a type of product that stood out for you in making that pivot?
You know what? One of my favorite stories is Real Food for Real Kids. So they produce meals for daycares and schools in Toronto. And literally overnight, all the schools and daycares were closed. And so what they did was they looked at their, we call it currency. So what were they really good at? Making healthy food and logistics, getting it out to the schools and daycares. And literally overnight, they were looking at pivoting to some of the families that were first line, so those in the hospital environment, but also they were able to say, you know what, we can go direct to customer here, and we can take those healthy meals to all the families that are already familiar. The kids are already familiar with our meals. And so they were able to pivot quite effectively.
Well, that's a brilliant example. Thank you for sharing that. Now, on the opportunity side, you talked about reducing waste and more of the circular economy. Can you give some examples of how you've seen that evolve? And are companies warned to go down that path?
Absolutely. So we did some work last fall with the Walmart Foundation in partnership with the Canadian Centre for Food Integrity and EnviroStorage. We did 50 food loss and waste prevention assessments across companies in Canada. And interestingly, the average amount of waste we saw just across those 50 companies was 9.3 million kilograms. And on average, what that meant for an individual company was $228,000. So there's tremendous financial, tremendous environmental, and social from focusing in on this. If we think about it from the perspective of calories lost, or the environmental impact from the embedded energy, the embedded water, the embedded greenhouse gases, then suddenly it can come to the forefront of, you know, here's the reason why this needs to be a priority. It's costing us money, it's impacting the environment, and people are not able to eat the food. And so that really brings the issue to the forefront. When we think about a circular economy, we're so proud. We are part of the Our Food Future initiative in the City of Guelph County of Wellington. And what we're trying to create is the first circular food economy at a municipal level. And right now, I'm so excited. We are working with several different vendors to bring together or showcase, if you will, what circular can really mean. So we've got a brewery, Wellington Brewery. They have spent grain. We're taking that spent grain and we're sending it to Orca Solutions. It's a black soldier fly. They're making fish supplements. Then that fish supplement's going to Izumi Aquaculture. They're feeding that to their rainbow trout. And then the rainbow trout is being sold to the neighborhood group, and they're feeding that to people in their menu as a showcase menu item. And then what's really interesting is we're taking some of the spent grain from Wellington Brewery and we're sending it to the Grain Revolution, and they're making a bread product. And so that bread is then creating our fish sandwich, or if you will, on that same menu item. And then we're taking some of the fertilizer from the fish, from the aquaculture farm, and we're sending it to a potato farmer, and they're going to then give us potatoes to make French fries. So at the end of the day, our meal is going to be a fish burger and fries and a Wellington beer, completely circular. And so that's the sort of idea, is to sort of make circular food come to life.
Wow, that's an incredible example, and thanks again for sharing that. I had some experience in working with a company in Vietnam. It was actually from Europe, who had black soldier fly as well, so pretty amazing. Cher, in the last 30 seconds, if you're up in front of 50 CEOs, as I'm sure you are on a regular basis, what guidance would you give them?
You know what I would say right now is I would say every single business needs to stop and look at why they exist beyond profit. It's time to rethink, repurpose, start again. This is an incredible opportunity to start again. And as a startup, if you build your business right the first time, you're going to be well set to not only survive this COVID issue, but to thrive.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Ladies and gentlemen, there you go. There you have it, all the way from Guelph, Ontario, Cher Mereweather, the CEO of Provision Coalition. Cher, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today.
Thank you, John. It's my pleasure.